All right. So, good morning, afternoon. It's afternoon for most of us. Um, my name is Kevin Hetrick. I'm going to be your trainer today. So, can everyone see my screen? If you can't, let me know. I just want to make sure that we're all looking at the same thing here.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, this is our Keep It Simple online software. This when you first log in, well, let's start at the very beginning of this, right? So the very beginning of this, this is a web-based software, which means there's no more installs to any computers. So no networking, nothing like that. You can access the software from any computer. As long as you go to the site and you log in, you'll have access to all of your returns, all your return data, and you can operate any way that you want to. Um, the only caveat to that is you do need to be in the United States. If you access it from outside of the United States, our security protocols will lock the account for safety. But that's really it. So you can access this from anywhere, which is great. As the world has become more remote and more mobile, this becomes a great asset in having a software that is as mobile as you're going to be or your staff may be. So when we first log in, the very first page it takes us right here is our dashboard. So the dashboard will give you sort of an overview of what's going on inside. We have a message board where we'll post industry updates, things like that. We have the buttons across the top here, which just sort of give you different return types, things that are ready to e-file, checks that are ready to print, for example. Then we have the rejected return summary. It lets us know if we have e-file errors or if you have rejected returns. So when you click there, it'll actually take you to the rejected returns. We have an e-file summary, and this is usually by a total. That you know how many you have queued, how many accepted, how many rejected, that kind of thing. And then a daily return summary is basically lets you know how many returns you're creating every day, right? That's really what that is. Up at the top is where I want to talk about. This is the top bar. You'll hear support refer to it as the top bar. Clicking something in the top bar. The first thing is this login to prior year. So this login to prior year will allow you to access software back to however many years back it is that's available on your account. By default, it's 3. If you need more than that, you can talk to your account manager and they can direct you on what needs to be done for that. But by doing that, I can click log into prior year and it actually takes me to last year's version of the software. So I can log in, I can look at prior year returns, and I'm still logged into the current year. And you can do that for any number of years. So if I go log in, I'm in 2020 already, I go to 2019. And now I'm logged into 20, I'm logged into 19, and I'm logged into 21. So that's a great asset. Again, it eliminates that networking sort of capability or needing to be in your office to look at a return. You can look at it from anywhere. The view text message link, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about that when we get into the return and I start talking about the text messaging functionality that's currently available in the software. But there's a couple of other buttons up here. I want to start with Quick Account Setup. Quick Account Setup is where you can basically do everything that you need to set up your office for the coming year, the sort of the required things, right? You set up your preparers here, your firm information. By and large part, a lot of this stuff is already filled out for you, but if you need to make modifications to it, you can. Your pricing setup. In the pricing, you have different options. You can do a fixed rate for all returns, basically flat rate pricing. You can do pricing per form. And as you see, we can scroll down. They have all the schedules. You can do all forms, however you want to do it. And then you set your price individually for that. Or you can set the price manually after every return. I have mine set to that because it's just easier when we're doing training for it to be set that way. Same thing with states. They work the same way. You can set a price for each state. You can set it manually. You can set it for forms. Or you can do a flat rate for all states. I'm going to leave it as a flat rate for now. You can create discounts and have those saved so that when you modify the invoice, you can apply those discounts. Same thing with additional charges. So if you're offering additional services that you want to charge out of the refund, you can do that by adding these additional charges ahead of time. Not required, but you can always add them manually if you want on each individual invoice. This just gives you sort of a list to kind of pick from. Okay. Now we go to this invoice setup. Now support will help you with this invoice setup, but it's really, really easy. The invoice prefix, I always just use the first 5 letters of your company name. The invoice starting sequence, I always use the year. I just do 2022, and then office location, I put the city. That's kind of all you have to do here. The only other thing is I like to check this box where it says check here to show detailed fee disclosure for bank products. That'll give you a page that just breaks down all of the fees specifically, line by line, and where it's going. After that, that's pretty much the end of the setup. The setup is done at that point. You can go, you can start doing your returns. The last piece that you'll need is the bank enrollment. And so I have the bank enrollment for 2022. We've already completed ours. And the bank enrollment is really easy. You come in here, you'll click, we have both already. So you'll have a green icon here. You click that, it takes you into the bank enrollment, and you can kind of go from there. It's very simple, very quick, very easy. If you need help with that, again, contact support, we can walk you through it. Now, sort of touching on these last 2 buttons, one is live chat. Live chat will connect you to support. So if you have a question, you're inside the software and you need some assistance, click that live chat button, put in your name and your EFIN. That will connect you with the next available support agent, and we can help you that way. Saves you time from having to call in. It's very quick. We can do remote sessions directly from inside the software as well. And that's what this remote support button is for. So if you're talking to support and they say, hey, can we get a remote session? I want to look at this with you. You click remote support. And in here, you're going to enter your session ID. And in the name field, we ask that you enter your EFIN so that we know what support session it is. Again, kind of straightforward stuff. We'll go back to the individual. Now, for those of you that are doing corporate returns, there is a business tab, and that's where you would access business returns. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the business return piece specifically today. We're more focused sort of on the 1040 side, but if we need to, we'll do a training specifically for business on just how to access it. But honestly, the process for business returns versus 1040, the process of doing the return is pretty much the same in terms of software functionality. So from here, now we want to go to clients over here in our toolbar. So we'll click clients. This gives you a list of the clients. This gives you a list of your clients. You have a variety of options on how you can search. You can search by their email. You can search by their zip code. You can search by phone numbers, the date it was created. We try to give you as many options as you can. You can also sort by return stages, and I'll talk specifically about return stages in just a moment. You can sort it by first name. You can sort it by last name. If you want to hide the client list, you can. That just means you have to type in the social in order to see anything. Up here across the top, we have some other things. We have new return. We have the amended list. We have paper filed list, completed, incomplete, and a variety of other things in here. Generally, we stick to manage returns and new returns. If those other lists could be useful for you, but for training purposes, we stay in new return and manage returns. So manage returns. I'm going to open just one of our generic returns here, maybe that isn't complete. Perfect. This is what we call the client manager or the manage return screen. And I'm using these phrases because that's something that support may say to you is, hey, go to the client manager and do such and such, right? We have our toolbar across the top here. We have edit, we have view print, view input. You can delete, password protect. You can password protect a return if you don't want someone to be able to access it or look at it. We have all the client letters, notes, signature, my tax office, DM docs, and then there's one more that says text message. I'm going to show you. I did this for a reason. If you don't see the text message button, it is because you did not mark them as active or enrolled with the text messaging. And I'll show you inside the return where that's done in the direct input mode. There is a checkbox. When I choose sell, there's a checkbox here that says taxpayer opts into receiving text message alerts from this office. That will allow you to send them text messages. And I'll show you if we save. And we'll close out. You see now I have the text message button and I can send text to this client. So I can review the history of our text as well. So sort of just touching on some of the features from the client manager before we actually dive fully into a return. It's basically everything from signature to the right. So we're going to start at signature. We have a variety of signature options, including mouse or on-screen signature. You can use signature pads. I'll show you in the setup what signature pads. These are all this is the most common signature pad from Topaz, but we did import the Scriptel. So you should be able to use either the Topaz signature pads that you guys probably have been using or the Scriptel. If you need specifics, you can always reach out to us and we'll get you the specific model numbers that you need for Scriptel if that's something you need. So in this signature, we have, you can have them sign just the bank product electronically, however you want to do it. Generally, I just say click select all. And then if they're signing on screen, you just hit start. They sign. You set the date, whatever the date happens to be, right? And then you click save signature. I zoomed in a little bit. Click save signature and the signature is saved, and then it will apply the signature to everything that you have checked up here. That's pretty straightforward as far as that goes. Second button over here is the My Tax Office. Now, My Tax Office has a couple of different options. Let me see if I can. I'll show you guys remote signature specifically when we get into our own return. But My Tax Office is essentially three separate things. My Tax Office applies to the mobile app. That is actually the name of the mobile app that your customers can download, and they can actually submit returns to your office using that My Tax Office. They can submit their docs, they can review their return, and they can sign using the My Tax Office mobile app. It is also a client portal, and I'll show you guys the client portal when we get into our own return. The client portal allows your clients a website where they can access their return information. They can upload documents. They can sign documents as well. And then we have a remote signature feature. That remote signature feature allows you to send them a text message, send a text message to the taxpayer, and then the taxpayer and spouse can sign using that link. So very similar to what maybe some of you are used to using the desktop software. That functionality exists there as well. And I'm going to show you guys when we do our full return from start to finish, how the remote signature works, how mobile app works as well. The next one is DM Docs. DM Docs allows us to store documents so you can make your office paperless. You have a couple of options. You can upload documents. You can decide whether or not the taxpayer can see that document in the portal, so you can upload your own documents. Anything that you scanned, maybe they emailed it to you, you can upload it and attach it to their return, or you can scan. And the scan will use any webcam based camera. The one specifically that we recommend is from a company called IPEVO. Scanner's about $99 and it's 4K, crystal clear in color. It's beautiful and it works really, really well with the software. If you need specifics on any of that, I can give those to you guys at the end on where you can locate that IPEVO scanner. And then text, which we briefly touched on, where you can send a text message to a taxpayer if you need to change the cell phone number when you send it. That's done from inside the software. Okay. So let's take a step back and let's go start a new return fresh and clean. And I want to show you guys a couple of things. So inside here, you click create new return, and then you just type in the social like you normally would. This is all pretty straightforward. Now, on this screen, I want to point something out because it is a little confusing. A lot of people do not know what this 1040 Form SS is. This only applies to bona fide residents of Puerto Rico. I know it says U.S. self-employment tax return, and that causes some confusion, but that is literally what the form is called. If you have self-employed people who are not bona fide residents of Puerto Rico, you'll continue to use the 1040 like you always have. Nothing has changed. This form, the 1040 SS, only applies to bona fide residents of Puerto Rico. It's a Puerto Rico tax return, essentially. So we go save and continue on the 1040. And now it takes us to the personal information sheet. Okay. And on the personal information sheet and any other sheet in the software, any form, if you want to know what fields are required, you don't have to do anything but click save. And you will get all of these red question mark box circles that will let you know what the required fields are. So we're going to go ahead and plug in some information here. And we're going to say no. We're going to file head of household for this. There is a zip code database built in. So if we just type it in, it'll give us the city and state. We're going to opt in. If you need to add a secondary contact number, for example, anyone using TPSC, that they require 2 phone numbers. Refund, Santa Barbara does not. I don't think Refundo does, or Republic. So one of the other things I want to point out right here, which is a little bit different than what you guys are used to, we have resident state. We have a resident state option. By default, we are going to choose, the software is going to choose whatever resident state is listed as the address. That's going to mark that as the resident state. If that's not correct, you can change it here. We also have a couple of other questions about living and making money in other states, and I'll show you why we do this. So we're going to say, no, we didn't live in any other state, but yes, we did make money in another state. And we're going to select the state. And in this case, I'm going to select, let's do Oklahoma. And you can enter as many states as you need to. And the reason I do this, when we come down here all the way to the bottom, and we click save, you'll see over here it added Oklahoma, the Oklahoma return automatically for us. And if we look at it, it's going to, by default, mark us as a full year non-resident. So one of the things we don't have to do in this software is try to navigate what state forms are required for a person based on whether they're part-time or full-time residents of that state, which should save you guys a bunch of time for those of you that do state returns, especially external states or secondary states. That should save you quite a bit of time in not having to track down. Every state handles state returns a little bit different for non-resident part year residents. Some states have a different form. Some states have checkboxes on the main form. Other states have the main form, and then there's a schedule that goes with it. This eliminates a lot of that from even being a necessary thing. Moving on, we have the ability to generate the tax forms in Spanish. So if you've got a high Spanish speaking population in your customer, they may want to see the actual form in their, in Spanish. So when we click here, you can see we get a PDF version of this form. When we zoom in a little bit so you guys can see, you'll see that everything is in Spanish, right? All of the text is in Spanish. Currently, this only applies to the 1040 because that is all the IRS has translated. We have to use IRS approved forms. So now we'll save here. Down here at the bottom, we've got a couple of things. If they want a direct deposit, you're going to put that information in here. If they want to check, then you don't need to worry about it. So you'll enter that information here. Now, one of the things to note with this software versus maybe softwares that you guys have used before, is this direct deposit information section down here. Now, if they are not doing a bank product and you enter direct deposit information in this section, the software is going to assume that they want a direct deposit of their federal tax refund. If you don't enter bank account information in here, then the software is going to assume that you want a check. So that's sort of the difference. So I know we may be used to going to the 8879 and selecting an option. We don't really need to do that here. If there's direct deposit information, it'll be a direct deposit. If there is check in, if there's no direct deposit information, it'll be a check. Now with bank products, whether you put direct deposit information or a check in here, you do still need to select what products they want when we do the bank application. And I'll show you guys that at the end when we get to the bank application piece. So now that we've saved, everything is open for us, right? You see here on the left, we have a form search. So if we're looking for something, we can search by form number. So if I want to search for the 8879, I can search for it. If I want to search for something about a home, I can type in home and it will give me anything that has the word home in it. So whether it's first time home buyer credit, expenses for the business use of a home, those kinds of things. Beneath that, on this left-hand side, we have all forms. All forms will literally list every form that is available in the software. Filed forms will only give you the forms that are attached to the current return. So these are the forms that are attached, right? So this is the information that is currently filled out. This is what your return is either based off of or what forms are actually being sent to the IRS. I tend to just sort of work down this left side. So as you move forward, if you go down that left side until you get past or down to the 1040, then you can start adding those additional forms that you need. Down here at the bottom left-hand corner, we have federal tax summary. And that'll give you basically an overview of everything that's kind of in the return, what the total income is, deductions, QBI, tax credits, payments, the whole thing, and then give you a refund or a balance due amount in this bottom left-hand corner. Okay. We're going to go to this additional info section because that's next on the list. First question is going to ask about virtual currency. This is going to be a big topic for this year, next year, probably many years moving forward. If they sell, send, receive, exchange, acquire any cryptocurrency, the IRS wants that reported. That's sort of it. Below that is where we get into identity verification, and this has become a big push for the IRS. For anybody who's attended any of those security summits like I have, the IRS is pushing heavily about identity verification. Now, you're already required to verify the identity of someone before you file taxes. The IRS wants to make sure, and so they've started moving to some requirements of the software developers to put things in place that would essentially say that you did, or at least help you prove that you did to the IRS should an identity theft, situation arise, where someone claims identity theft and you did the return, you can verify their identity or prove that you did verify it. Some states require ID information to even be able to file the return, period. Whether it's paper or e-file, they require it. I believe Alabama is that way. Alabama requires, if I remember right, they require identification to file a tax return. I know we got some folks, I think, in here that do Alabama returns. They'd be able to speak maybe a little bit better than me on that. But so it's going to ask you, do you have a state issued driver's license? We're going to say yes. Now they can say, no, I don't want to provide it. That seems sketchy, but they could. Then you're just going to enter their driver's license information into here. And then you enter the issue dates. And I'm not really too worried about this right now. And let's see, 26. And then it's going to ask you a couple of questions down here in the bottom section about identity verification. Did you verify their identity in person or remote? I'm going to say no on the remote because we're doing it in person. We say yes, and then it's going to say, hey, did you verify that the government ID is good? We said yes, it's valid, it's verified, we can go. And this is just sort of to help you in that process of making sure that identity verification is done. Okay. This last question at the bottom is, do you want to state a preference to receive written communication from the IRS in a language other than English? Let me sort of kind of clue you guys in. This is more of a poll question than anything else. The IRS is trying to do is they're trying to build out a list of languages they need to translate written communications into. I will tell you this, if you're only going with English or Spanish, I would just answer this question no, because if you answer yes, then they're going to ask follow-up questions, what language? And you see, like Spanish is, I think, not even, yeah, it's here, but they're going to do Spanish. You don't have to select Spanish on this. But if you have a customer, maybe you have a large customer base that is Vietnamese, you may want to select that so that pushes Vietnamese up the list so they get it done a little bit faster. But honestly, you can probably answer no to this question pretty much every time. So we'll save. Then we're going to move down to dependent information. I am filing head of household, so we do need to go ahead and make sure we have a head of household qualifier. We're going to go ahead and add a dependent. If the dependent has an identity protection pin, you'll enter it there. Now, we answer a lot of these questions ahead of time for you. We assume that if you're claiming a dependent, that they lived with you for more than 6 months out of the year and that they lived with you for 12 months. That's generally what we do. We also indicate based on their social, their age, whether they qualify for EIC, whether they're a US citizen, whether they're eligible for child tax credit, whether you want to claim them as a dependent. Those are sort of already filled out for you. Now, HOH qualifier is a checkbox that you need to check on the first dependent that you're filing head of household when you file head of household. Only one dependent qualifies someone for head of household. It is not all of them. They don't have to have multiple children. They just need to have one. So you just want to make sure that you select one of those dependents as the head of household qualifier for anyone filing head of household. Okay. Moving down, we give you a couple of spots where you can enter some additional information. Qualified child and dependent care expenses. So we're talking, let's go ahead and put that in, and I'm going to show you why we do that. So we put 5,000 in for it. I'm not going to worry about the qualified tuition expenses. And then the additional questions that we're all kind of used to seeing on that schedule, EIC. Do they have a valid social? Can any other person claim them? Did they live live with you in the United States for more than half the year? Then that final question is about ACA, and that's did they receive health insurance through the marketplace? We're just going to say no to that. We're going to hit save. We're going to move on. Now you'll see down here at the bottom, we have a warning now that says you've entered child dependent care expenses here. So you have to enter care provider information on part 1 of the 2441. So let's go look at the 2441. We'll click this blue hyperlink and that will take us over to the 2441. So you see it carried the dependent information and expenses over to the 2441 automatically. Now we just need to add a provider. So we're going to go ahead and add a provider. We're going to enter an EIN. We have an EIN database, and that was why I did this. The EIN database applies across W-2s and childcare providers, educational institutions. It's all in one singular database, right? EIN database will update as you enter it. For those of you that are changing from the old software to the new software, changing from the old to this, the EIN database is something that we can export and have imported into the software so you're not having to re-enter all of that W-2 information. I know some of you have been using that other software for many years, so we want to make sure that we can carry that information over with it. So we can. So got all that in here. Now we just need to enter the amount that we paid that provider and hit save. Now, as we go down, it's going to ask us one other question, which is, did you pay 2020 expenses in 2021? We're going to say no. We're going to hit save, and we're done with the 2441. Now, if we go back up here to the top, what we're missing right now is income, right? We've got dependent information, we've got ID, we filled out the 2441, but what we need is income. So let's go add a W-2. So we're going to add a W-2 just by typing in W-2. Here's the W-2. We're going to click add new, and this is pretty straightforward stuff from here. It's all basically the same as what you guys have already been doing. We're going to enter 26,800, throw in some, let's do 1859. Throw in some numbers here. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to show you in relation to states and sort of the way the software adds states, if we add a state down here, let's add Colorado, let's throw in some numbers here. and we save, you're going to see we're going to get a non-resident Colorado return added. We go back, we go visit, and you'll see full year non-resident Colorado is going to give me $65 back. It's already basically done. When we hit verify, it'll indicate to us whether or not we have any other verification errors, but for the most part, it's done. We look at filed forms now, you'll see everything that is attached to the return. So we've added some things, right? We've got the 2441, we've got the 8812, we've got the W-2. So now we have basic income. This is a pretty basic return at this point. But let's go add our Schedule C because, we do some painting on the side. So we're going to go, we're going to type in Schedule C, or I can just scroll down and go to Schedule C. I find it faster just to search. So we're going to do add new, paint. So for the business code, we can click pick from list, and then we can choose from here. I'm just going to choose something for the sake of choosing something. Excuse me. Now, it's the same as really at this point any other Schedule C that you guys are used to seeing, right? So we're going to scroll down. I'm just going to hit save so that we can go add income. So now we've got this. Now I have a couple of ways that I can get to the 1099 NEC. I can add it manually, or if I can go back into the Schedule C and I can hit 1099 NEC. You always want to create your schedules. So whether it's a Schedule C, E, F, or the 4835 before you enter a 1099 NEC. The reason for that is because you need to be able to link the 1099 NEC to that schedule. So I'll show you when we go in here. We're going to add this in. Got non-employee compensation. Let's do 3,500. I don't want to put this guy too far out. And once we enter an amount, you'll see this reporting section opens up. Easiest way to do this is click pick from list, select the schedule that you want it to go to, click use, then you can come down and hit save. You'll see the non-employee compensation. Now, if we go to file forms and look at the Schedule C, you'll see that net profit, those gross sales are now listed here. And at this point, we can now enter any expenses or any additional income that we need to enter. I'm going to focus on really one or two pieces of the expenses. Most of these are just manual entry fields, but I do want to show you one cool little thing that we have inside this software is the work pad. So this work pad, you click this little clipboard icon next to the field, it opens up the work pad, and the work pad allows us to do this. We say we spent $98 on flyers, we spent $156 on posters, we sent some postcards out for this business, and we spent $226 on that. Now, when I save, you see the total amount down here, but when I save, that total amount now goes into this field and it's blue. That blue is indicating that there's a work pad for it. This becomes really helpful if the IRS comes back and goes, well, what were these advertising expenses for? You can open it up and go flyers, postcards, posters, and this is what we paid on each one. That's one of the reasons I do it. Clients don't always bring you individual, like, okay, I spent, $212 on office expenses. They bring you receipts. We know it. They shouldn't, but it happens, right? And so the easiest way to do that is to just, instead of you adding them up, just plug them in to the work pad and let the software add it up for you, and it'll put it in the right place. So the second thing we're going to look at in here is, in particular, is going to be part 4, which is where we talk about mileage and actual expenses. So part 4 is vehicle information summary. So if we click add new, we're going to put when the vehicle was placed in service. Now, I do want to point this out because I think there's been some confusion in this. The date the vehicle was placed in service is not January 1st of the tax year. It's the first day that vehicle was used in any year for business. So if I bought my SUV in 2016 and I have been using it at business since January 1st of 2016, then this date would be 1/1 of 2016. It wouldn't be 1/1 of 2022. Not as big a deal necessarily for mileage and that kind of thing, but when you start getting into depreciation, those dates really matter. So I just want to point that out because I had that question a couple of days ago from a client. 44A, you're going to put in the total business miles that were driven. Let's just do, I don't want to do too much. Then you answer the questions like we're all kind of used to answering these questions, I think, at this point. No. And so then it gives us the standard mileage amount. Now, if we want to use actual expenses, then we can come down to actual vehicle. We can type in those expenses. We can use the work pad again here. For this sake, I'm just going to do the standard mileage rate. And so we'll save. I mean, see, once we do that, that standard mileage rate now comes up to the car and truck expenses like you would expect, right? What I like about this is we're not limited to 4 vehicles or 3 vehicles like some softwares are. We can continue to add as many vehicles as needed to this for mileage. Now, the last thing I want to look at inside here in relation to expenses on the Schedule C is depreciation. And this will be a little bit different and hopefully a lot easier maybe than what we've been doing in the past on some other softwares. So we're going to go to Form 4562. We're just going to click that link. It'll take us over here. We're going to add a new one. And up here at the top, you got property information. Down here, you have vehicle information. And then amortization at the very, very bottom. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add new on some stuff. I don't even know what I'm just going to type something. We're just going to pick a product. So we're going to do 1/1 of 2021 on this. Let's just say we bought it this year. Cost basis, let's do, I don't know, let's do 3,500. Okay. Now, if you don't know the property type, the classification of property, that kind of thing, that's why we built this Help Me. So if you click Help Me, it'll open it up and kind of give you a list of what these individual things are. So in this case, I am depreciation, manufacturing. I don't know. I think I'm just going to pick something. Let's say computer-based telephone. Perfect. We're going to do apply and close, right? It's not a vehicle. This is so it gives us the property type, the classification, the method, and the convention, which is the key components to everything related to depreciation, right? So now we've got everything in, we can go ahead and hit save. And you'll see the depreciation amount is $700 on this particular asset. Now, when we save this, and we go back to our Schedule C, you'll see that depreciation is there. So depreciation is pretty quick, pretty easy, a little more form-based than sort of a module-based, but it's there and it works really well. Now, I'm going to show you this while we're talking about depreciation. We have an assets button up here at the top. This will list out all of the assets and what the current depreciation is, and then what the future depreciation is on those items as well. Right? So here's the depreciation details. This is what the cost basis is going for future years. And you can change depending on what forms you're looking at. You also can print this. This print all becomes extremely helpful for some of your clients so that they have that list if they ever need it of their assets, especially the ones they're depreciating. The IRS may ask them for that. Bankers often ask for that. So that can be very helpful for them. So now we're looking at this return. We got a $9,000 refund, right? We've entered everything that we need to enter. Let's hit verify and let's see what's missing. Let's see what we haven't completed yet. So we're going to hit verify and we're going to have a few things on here, right? So I always work from the bottom to the top. That's just easier for me. So we're going to start at the bottom. Here we need to enter the QBI because he has a Schedule C that did turn a profit. So let's click here to fix. It will take us to the QBI page, and this literally couldn't be easier. Click Add New, click Pick from List, select your property, hit Use, or select your Schedule C rather, and then hit Save. And then come to the bottom here and hit Save. And now when we verify, we're done. That one's gone. So 8812, we've got a couple of additional questions we need to answer there, which is how much did we receive? We're going to say we didn't receive anything. So because we're not making any changes, we just want to hit save, and that will let the software know that we did review this and that the information is correct. So when I hit verify again, that 8812 question is gone. Same thing here with this coronavirus using your 2019 earned income. We're not going to do that. So I just need to come here and hit save to indicate to the software that we did review this form. Verify. Now we got to go to the recovery rebate credit. We're going to say we got all the recovery rebate credit. So we save. Verify again. Now we get into due diligence. So let's go into due diligence. We're going to add new, and you'll see at the top it now has the credits. Now these are all questions that we are used to seeing. I want to show you a couple of slight differences in this software versus maybe others. One is this attached explanation, and we kind of give you some help. There's a link here that talks about examples of documents to rely on. So the fifth question is specifically talking about document retention. Did you get documents from the customer to prove that they are eligible for these credits? And did you retain those documents, right? And so we give you a little bit of help by giving you some things that can prove, right? Residency, business license, 1099s, whatever it is. So I'm just going to grab a couple of these. So right here, you're going to click, after you answer this question, yes, you hit attach explanation. And the best thing you can do here is just enter the documents that you used so that you have them saved. So if the IRS comes back and says, well, what did you use? Well, we use this. And then you can locate those documents either in the DM docs or in your personal files, your physical files rather. Now we're just going to answer the rest of these questions. And again, these are all sort of what these questions are the same across every software. Now we get into this credit eligibility certification, and this is one of my favorite features in this software. So we're going to answer question 15, yes, right? That to the best of our knowledge, everything that we answered is true and correct. This box is where you can type in those additional questions that you asked and the responses that you got, right? Or what the taxpayer told you. And in this case, I'm just going to say taxpayer advised that dependent's mother does not have custody, provided custody paperwork, right? No problem. So whatever you type in here, you can type, whatever it is you did to sort of satisfy those due diligence requirements, right? Those additional questions. You can enter the date that the information was received and who you received the information from. This checkbox will save you a lot of grief because whatever you type in this box, when you check that box, you can generate a worksheet for the taxpayer to sign. And I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. So we hit save here. And I'm going to close out of this return just so I can get to the view print because I don't think does it show over here? No. Okay. So we're going to close this. I'm going to go back to the client manager just so I can show you guys that form, which is not our normal process, but there is a form here that says 8867 prepare a note. So we're going to look at this right here, and it says taxpayer advised the dependent's mother, right? What we put in, the date, the information, and then it's their signatures, taxpayer and spouse, or just taxpayer, right? And it says by signing below, you verify that the above information was provided by you and is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge. There is no way if you put everything in that box and they sign it, that the taxpayer could ever claim that they never told you that. You eliminate that as an argument, and the IRS at that point will usually back you. Will usually say, you know what, you satisfied your due diligence requirements, and they signed saying that the information is true and correct. So that's why that's my favorite feature in this software. All the other things technically are beautiful and wonderful, but that one actually could save you money in the long run from a fine. So now we're going to verify again. And all that we have left right now is the taxpayer PIN. So we're going to click to update that. And this is super, super easy. This is the taxpayer PIN for the 8879. All you do is click auto generate taxpayer PIN, check the box, and click save. Done. Now we are done with this return, right? We verify. We have nothing here. We have nothing in Colorado, nothing in Oklahoma. So we're done. So we're going to hit complete. And you want to mark the return complete. You want to mark the return reviewed. Now we can do save and redirect manage returns. Now, when we do this, what we're saying is that we are finished with the return. Now, my process for doing this, and you guys may have a different process inside your office, and that's okay. My process for doing returns in this software is complete the return, get paid, or make an agreement or an arrangement via bank product to get paid, have them sign, and then provide them their documents. That is generally my method. Now, if we were using DM docs, I would have uploaded those inside the return, which you can do from direct input. You have DM docs up here. So after I filled out the primary information, I would have uploaded all of the docs in there. And you can do it again right from here. So let's go get paid, right? So, and that's how this software works, just so I can kind of clarify this. You do the return and then you get paid. So once the return is complete, then you make your arrangements for payment. And that's where you use this client payment section. So once the return is marked complete and reviewed, you can come down and click Start Payment. Okay, and then you're going to click Add New Invoice. And in this one, I have it set up for manually charged. So we're going to enter the fee amount, and we're going to come in here. And this is where I was telling you guys before, where you can modify those charges. If you click Modify Charges, I can add a discount, or I can add additional charges, or I can select one of the already existing discounts or charges that is already there. Now, down here at the very bottom, this is where we're determining how they are getting their refund or how they are paying you, right? Non-banking means they need to pay you up front. Banking means they're going to do a bank product. We're going to look at banking for the sake of looking at it, okay? So now you have the payment type. This is with TPG. We're going to choose check because that's what we want to do. You can add a state refund transfer. You can add audit protection. We're going to do save and continue. And here's where it will lay out all of the fees, right? Here's all the fees. So you can discuss those with your customer. All of this stuff is pulling from that additional information section in the return where we entered the ID information, pulls the addresses, all of those things. We're going to list them as citizen. So really on this screen, for the most part, what you're going to be doing is, do they want to opt in for alerts? If they want to opt in for alerts, then they got to enter, certain information. And then, did you examine their ID? Save and continue. Oh, I'm missing cell phone number. Okay. We'll just save and continue. And then we get to the agreements. So you can, from here, you can either print all of the agreements or you can wait and print them with the return, whichever you want to do. Generally, what I do before I go too far, for me, is I do this fee disclosure. And I will print this one and have them sign so that they know right there, acknowledging what the fees are, what their expected refund is, as well as if there is the disbursement method, right? If they're doing direct deposit and they sign, you have them check the routing and account number. So I generally will print this and then I will send them then I will have them sign for the whole thing electronically. So we're going to save and continue. And so now we're done, right? So we got paid, we're going to get paid. So let's have them sign the return. That's our next step. So they're not in the office anymore. They left. So we're going to come over here. We're going to go to My Tax Office. And this is where you can select, do you want to give them access to the client portal or remote signature? For the sake of this, I'm just going to do remote signature and I'm going to show you guys what this looks like. We're going to do it via email so that we can all watch, but the process is not any different via email as it is via text. The process is exactly the same. We do have some videos up on our YouTube channel that break down each of these individually, so you guys can go look at those at any time if you get stuck. So we're going to do send link. Okay. Let me go grab that email and drag it over to this side as soon as I get it. So here's what the email will look like, right? They're going to get an email. It's going to say, hey, we requested your remote signature. The link does expire after 24 hours. So once we do that, now we can click here to access. We're going to drag this over. Okay. So they'll do this on their phone or on a computer. If they're using email, they can do it on the computer. If they're using their phone, that's fine too. And they're going to verify that same information that they're currently verifying. Let me go back to manage returns because I don't remember. Okay. What did I do? Date of birth, 3/3/1990. Okay. So we do validate user, and you'll see now that they're going to get some additional information. Right now, it's loading the return. It's pulling the return files, right? So they can view any of the forms. They can view the fee. They can view the audit protection, whatever they need to view. Once they have reviewed the return, they check the box that says, I have reviewed my return, and they click done. Okay, it's going to ask them, do you want to electronically sign your tax return documents? They're going to say yes, hit continue. Right here is where they're going to sign. So they hit start and they can sign with their mouse. If they're on their phone, they can sign with their finger. They hit save signature and they're going to hit mark as completed. That's it. They're done. Now watch. We saw how fast this was, right? There's a signature. It's done. So if you hit select all and save, the signature is completely done. Now if we go to view print and we print this return, which because they signed electronically, I'm not going to print the return. I'm going to export it to Document Manager so that I keep my office paperless. So I'll do prepare copy signature forms only because I don't need the letters and do export to Document Manager. When we do that, hit OK. We can go look at the doc in DM Docs. Now I'm going to open this up. Well, it's not letting me print now. I'm going to export. I'm going to export this to PDF just so I can look at it. So you'll see it gives me the full return, everything that we need. And then when we get down into the 1040, I'll zoom in a little bit so you guys can see. You will see that not only is their signature and date there, but Pedro's signature is there as well. Okay, so all of that stuff is there and it's already signed and it's the full return. Now, one of the things that you can do from here, so we can close this because we're done. One of the things you can do from DM Docs is you can check this box and hit update, and that will let that information be available in the client portal, right? There's a checkbox here, then that means it's available in the client portal for a customer. Now that I have signed, after 24 hours, once this clears, once I send the return, then I can actually upgrade that office to the client portal. I'm going to show you guys the client portal briefly. So that would go to mytaxoffice.com to access the client portal. You guys can put this link on your website, anything like that. You see. I don't even remember my password on this. Hang on. Let's find. I got a client over here. I think it was this one. Cool. I'm going to upgrade this one to full access. So we can get in and look at it. So I'll get another email over here. Close back. I'll show you guys what that client portal process is. So once they get client portal, it's going to look very similar to the email that they got about remote signature. They're going to click there to access, and we're going to go through the same things that we went through before, right? Test. There's slight differences with the client portal. The remote signature essentially is just a minimized version, if you will, of the client portal. Oops. What date of birth? 1/1/1978. Okay, so now it's going to ask us for a user, right? Now we're creating an account for the client portal. Okay, and so now it's going to ask us to log in with our new credentials. MBW4CP. Now they have to set up two-factor authentication, and they do have to enter a cell phone number and an email. That's an IRS regulation. So we're going to have it send over here. Give me that code. There it goes. Let me open 95. So great. So now when we get in here and actually look at the client portal, you'll see this return. They can see what their total refund is. They can do everything they need to do. They can look at the document manager if there's any documents there. So for example, let's go to DM. Let's put something there. I'm just going to export customer copy with watermark over to DM Docs. We go to DM Docs. We're just going to select it, hit update. And now you'll see now they can view, they can print it, they can save it, they can download it, they can do whatever they want with whatever documents are copied here, right? So they have the dashboard, they have view print, where they can go get their own copies, right? That are unsigned in most cases. They can do the e-signature themselves, which I showed you guys how to do. They can send messages, and then they can log out. Now this will cover multiple years, but it only starts, the first year available will be the year that they set up the account. So if they set up the account in tax year 2022, it will go from 2022 forward to 2028, however far they stay as a customer. That will be available to them. So that again, I like the client portal. I use the client portal specifically when someone asks me for a copy of a return, and I've already sent them a copy of a return. So let's go back to our original return, right? So they did the remote signature. We can upgrade them to client portal if we want to. Okay. Now we need to provide them with a copy of their return, right? So we're going to do view print. And you got a couple of options here, right? We already have them signed. We have our copy. So you can do customer copy, and you can print it, and you just hit print selected forms, and it opens in a PDF. Really, really simple. So any of you that might have struggled trying to print returns, that will never be a problem again using this software. Not from the software end. If you can print a PDF, then you can print from this software, whether it's checks or tax returns. So you can either print it, you could save it here as a PDF. If you're using Chrome, I think specifically does it this way, or you can email them a customer copy. I'm going to do email because I want you guys to see how that looks. So we're going to do send email. It's a big file. Mail sent successfully. Now, one of the things to point out inside this email or this mail return function is there is no setup for you guys. It is going to they're going to get it from a particular email address. It's the same email address that everybody else is using. It just sends these emails. But so if they reply, it's not really going to go anywhere. So just sort of kind of keep that in mind. But this is what the email will look like. I'm going to open this all the way up. You'll see it's all pretty much filled out. Now, the email itself is password protected, but the instructions are here. It tells them how to do it. And I want to kind of go over these for a second, just so you guys know what it is, because if you know what it is, then it's easier for you to explain, right? So it's the first four letters of the taxpayer's first name, If it's less than 4 letters like Rod, then you just use whatever letters are available, followed by the month, day, and year of their date of the taxpayer's date of birth. So 2-digit month, 2-digit day, 4-digit year, and then the last 4 of the social. So if we go look at our taxpayer, right? The password, I'm going to open it. The password would be KEVI, right? 0303 1990 5656, right? So if one of the things you could do after sending that is send them a text that says, you could send them a text, and the IRS is totally okay with this. It's too, as long you don't want to send you can't send the password in the same email that you sent the return, the copy of the return. Otherwise, it defeats the point of it being encrypted. The password is literally in the email, right? So we can hit send message, and you can see what text messages have been sent, right? I'm logged in with Pedro's account. So Pedro sent this message at 2:11 on September 29th, and that's what it is. And what's cool is if I come back here and I reply in here, I can just say thanks. And so I replied to it, right? I said thanks. Now, what we want to do now is I want to open this. So if we go open, it's going to prompt us for the password, right? But we know what the password is, 0303 1990. Oop, did I do it wrong? There it goes. So we know what the password is, so let me write in, and now I can download, I can save. It gives me tax summaries, the whole thing. So it's one of those features and one of those functions that I thoroughly like is being able to email this out, and there's no setup for you guys, right? If you send the email, they're going to receive the email unless their email address is wrong. That's it. Um, it's sort of that crystal clear. I can't make it any less, any more simple than that. So now we've done the return. We completed the bank application, right? So we're getting paid. We have emailed them a copy of their return. Now we're ready to send the return. So at that point, you just come down here to e-file, you hit transmit now. And then you select what you want to send. And then you hit transmit now. If you hit add to queue, that used to do something. It really doesn't do much of anything now because the modernized e-filing system moves returns so quickly. But transmit now and add to queue basically do the same thing. So you can do either one. Now, that's it. The return is done. You're done. You've transmitted everything out. Let's go back to the dashboard, and I want to show you why I did this. Up here, I told you we would come back to this view text messages. So in this view text messages section, you see that there's a 1 in the parentheses. That means you have a new text message. So if we click view text messages, it's going to give us what that new text message is. And if I click it, then it's going to give me the history of that text message. So you actually can sort of keep those things going. It tells you there's one unread message. And now if we go back to here, you see now it just says view text messages and there's no number after it, right? So that's sort of how you can keep track. Additionally to that, if someone submits a return to you through the mobile app, through the My Tax Office mobile app, it will come into the software and it will pop up on this screen, very similar to this message. Talking about even verification, it will say you have a new My Tax Office return, and you click open, and it'll take you to it. If you have multiple, it'll take you to a list that has multiple. Okay. If you're going to use the My Tax Office mobile app, you've got a couple of options. One is you can have all of the returns submitted to the admin account or the admin preparer. If that's the case, you just use this mobile app ID and you give them that or that mobile app icon, and you give your customers this passcode 175K6M. each person has their own individual passcode. So if we wanted to just have Latrice wants to have all her customers send it to her, cool. Then we can set that, and Latrice would give them IM8152, and that is her passcode. So when the return comes in, it will be assigned to her automatically. So it's a matter of how you want to do it inside your own office. That's how we can make it work. We also have this function here where it says, send me an email when a customer creates a new return for the mobile application. I recommend, depending on how many of these you're getting, in particular, I recommend after the season is really kicked off, or started to wind down. So as the season is winding down, maybe you go enable that when you're not in the software every day. Over the summer, I have found that has been a big help to a lot of clients because they don't know necessarily that person sent a return, or maybe a friend of a friend who recommended that they send a return, any number of things. And then, with that on, they don't miss that return because they have it logged into the software in a few days because it's the summer and we all do other things, So that's one of those things, right? I want to show you one other thing, and then I'm going to open this up to questions. Okay. The other thing is here, our estimator. So you have a couple of different options with the estimator. One is just a regular quick estimator that you can fill out, and it will give them the full, give you just sort of a rough estimate. The other one is a bank estimator. And that's where you can just sort of enter some information, right? I think that's what I did. And you can set their refund is $92.65 and my fee is $5.99, and they want to check and they want it from TPG. Now I can run calculate, and it will give them this estimate on what the fees are, what the breakdown is, all of those things, and you can hit print, and it actually will give them a nice pretty page that gives them just sort of the excuse me, it will give them sort of just what that bank estimate is. I like that. Oh, I didn't show you guys this. I'm sorry. The very last thing, I promise. We do have different input methods. It is not all just direct input, which is what I showed today. There is an interview mode. Let me go to this. Let me go clear this work pad out. There is no work pad for interview mode, but I want to show you guys what it looks like. So if you have inexperienced preparers, they can use the interview mode. The interview mode looks very, I'm gonna say a naughty word in this industry. It looks very TurboTax friendly. So when we edit this return, I can show you. Here's the interview mode. So starts like that, and then you do save and continue, and then we get into this very pretty sort of TurboTaxy looking thing where we, if we go to income, then you got to show more and this kind of thing. Now, this can be very helpful for your newer preparers, at least initially starting off. It may help them process this. There is a ton of help available. We have the useful information section. There's other places too. So like if I go to my info, let's go to filing status. There's these gray question boxes where they can get additional information. There's also the I'm not sure, help me decide. And this actually will take you over to the IRS's website to use the ITA, the Interactive Tax Assistant. And they can click begin, and they can go through the process sort of asking those questions to determine. So there's a lot of things that are very helpful. And also this useful information will change based on where you are in the software. So if I go over here to income and I do show more, let's say I'm looking at a W-2 and I hit useful information, everything on this side should be W-2 related, right? Here's what to do if you're missing a W-2. Tells them, do these things. So we have a ton of help, and the useful information is available in both views. It's not limited to just interview mode. Okay.